And I got a nice little soft shadow. And I use that for just about all my outdoor scenes. Other stuff, like you want overcast or like slightly cloudy, you know, maybe 5 degrees. Still gives you that nice directional light, but it just softens that up a little bit more. Or you can go to full overcast by sticking with the default. And that just looks like an ambient occlusion render. So for this, I'm just going to leave it at 5 for now. And bring that light back down to 100. Okay, so got the wood in there. Could use some more bumps. I have a feeling they're not working there. I think they might be broken. Oh yeah, they're broken. Yeah, that's what I should be getting.
Well, if you left it plugged into the surface node, you said that...
It affects everything.
Right. Would that fix it then?
No, the bump will override everything.
No, I meant, will the car paint node work with the bump that's plugged into the surface node?
Yes, the normal and bump here work with everything. And they get added to whatever else is going on. So if I want a smooth clear coat, I can't have a bump in there because it'll bump the clear coat too.
Oh, shoot.
Well, I hope they come out with an update soon.
No, what about the paint bump height? Is that what was screwing it up? I just noticed that control underneath the paint bump. Oh, paint bump height was set to 0, Dave.
I'm on the wrong one. Okay, Miss Brilliance.
I'm using my
You wanna-
power of looking.
Well, Jen just fixed the car paint node.
Take it, Jen.
No problem. I'm happy to read the text at any time.
I gotta live with her now.
Does it default off, or did you zero
It
out?
was defaulted it off. That was the weird thing. Okay, let's try 500. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Still gotta crank that up a little more. Okay, so yeah. Learn about the paint bump height. It will make your life easier.
I didn't know it had 2 separate bumps.
I forgot about that one too.
Note to self, it doesn't work when set to 0.
Right. That's yeah, stupid. Okay, now I got a nice, much nicer looking wood. Boy, that is dark over there. But it actually does have a more of a woody feel to it. Okay, now to make that thing look like it's been clear coated. Again, you got the same settings here, and you also have a little paint and clear coat mixer. Right now, it's 100% paint, 0% clear coat. It's always going to be a blend. So let's do 100% here. And we have a mirrored ball. So this is good. I just want to see what I'm doing with the clear coat now. So give it a little bit of a roughness, brighten up that highlight. I'm going to go over here. Okay, yeah, it does have the paint reflection blur. That should actually be set to 1. 8 is way too much, and your anti-aliasing can clean that up. Speaking of which, let's switch to the real camera. Perspective 3.03. Those are my favorite settings. They work for just about everything. And say Mitchell. That sharpens up just ever so slightly. Yep. Now you notice with clear coat reflection blur turned off, increasing the roughness only affects the specular highlights. Now this is where the nodes get tricky again, because they call everything in them specular until you get over on the advanced tab where it's all reflection. And I've argued with the developer for a few years that it should be called reflection throughout the entire thing, because specular is really the highlight. That's what everybody thinks. Yeah, The technical description of spectral highlight is mirror-like reflection. It's like, well, that is a mirror-like reflection until you turn on the reflection blur and crank that reflection up, or that roughness. And it's like, well, now that's no longer a mirror-like reflection. That's more of a diffuse reflection. But I'm still fighting on that one. But yeah, it's, you only run into this with the material nodes.
And samples?
Yeah, samples, 1. It'll speed things up a lot. Now I like to have reflection blur on, and for anything, you know, like chrome or metals, anything from like 5% or lower gives you a nice, you know, soft, you know, not really chattery reflection. So you can see that, you know, that it's pretty harsh. That's always going to hit the anti-aliasing and take a while. That'll smooth out really nice once you start anti-aliasing that. And chattering just starts to fade away. Now I've got it ramped up a little bit higher than I normally do. I usually do 2%. But it's counterintuitive because increasing the blur a little bit can actually cut your render times down. And even increasing some of the samples sometimes will drop it down, but you notice it's not hitting as many pixels on this pass. So no blur, 5% blur. And if you ever look at foil or anything like that, you actually notice it isn't a perfect mirror reflection. It's got that built-in blur to it. Chrome hubcaps are another good example.
Or going to the astronomy store and trying to pick up something that was reflective. I forget what it was now. It was some kind of, was it a lens or there's something where it was like maybe like 98% reflective and that was the maximum it could go.
Oh yeah, the mirrors in a telescope are about 98% reflective.
Or something like that, and
Yeah.
that's as high as it would go.
Yeah, you can't get 100%. Yeah. Oh. Okay, so I've got a good setting for a clear coat. I'm going to sharpen that up just a touch. Now I can bring this down, and I'm starting to do a mix between the two. So there's my nice rough wood underneath a smooth reflection. Now I can bring this little Fresnel down into the paint and clear coat node. And let's just increase this a little bit more. And maybe brighten up my wood a little bit. Try again. So that's pretty much what I did for this wood back here. Oh,
Windows
okay.
E.
Hold on.
Windows.
That wood there. It's the same idea. It's got all the bumps from the original wood and then that nice smooth clear coat, which if you look over here, you actually notice I've actually modified that a little bit by adding some bumps. So again, I can say, oh, let's take a crackle texture. That one's pretty wicked. Throw that bump into the clear coat bump. And maybe tone that down a bit. I can do it here, or I can probably do it in the clear coat bump height, which I actually cranked way up to 500 when I was on the wrong one. There we go. So I've got two sets of bumps in there. Each one's affecting the lighting for a different part of the surface. And then once you've got all that stuff figured out, you have a flake color, flake opacity, and flake height. For that, I'm going to take my wood out of there. Pick a nice red ball. Leave the highlights for this. Let's Let's give it a different red. Okay, try that again. Let's say a nice orange red for that. Take that off. And go to flake color. It's, what's a good metallic flake to put on red? Anyone? Purple. Ew.
That'd be funky. Is the paint red?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking yellow.
Okay.
Like a nice golden yellow.
Gold.
Let's see.
Do a search for gold.
Okay, let's look for gold. That's a nice one. Okay, now let's turn the flake opacity up. And actually, I'm going to take that wood bump out of there too. Now, is that going to show up in there? I don't see it.
Distance fall off, is that the culprit?
Could be.
Because that's supposed to keep it from shattering at a distance, right?
There they are. It's a nice little control, just got to be aware of it. It's like normally I'm working on smaller objects, so I'm a little bit closer to it, but let's move this camera in.
But that's supposed to keep that's
Yeah,
fades
it's
out.
supposed to cut down on the chattering. So now we got all these little tiny gold flecks. And again, this is a color which has an input, so you can actually texture that based on incidence angle and all kinds of things, so you can actually have multiple colors. You have a flake opacity, flake height, flake density,
You could use this texture. for
and
sparkle wood.
the scale down here only applies to the flakes. So let's go full size. And that's what they look like. Let's bring them up to 100% density. And now that's actually making a little texture, kind of like a crumple, but each little surface is flat. If I go back to my flakes texture here, I'll show you how that one works. Flakes. Throw that into bump. Density 100%, okay. See how it's affecting the specularity there and the reflection. So it gives it a very faceted look for regular surfacing. It's also kind of cool when you take its output and run it into the size or position of another texture and it starts jittering it around. So bring this down to about 50%. Whoa, yeah, that's right. 50% just makes these little chips smaller, and the regular surface comes around the outside of them. And there's the actual diffuse part of the surface. So basically a larger version of that is being done right here. We got the flake opacity, flake height, flake density. So I can modify its bump right there. Let's connect that again. I'm going to turn the clear coat off for now.